This is Algebra Lesson 9.2, Solving Quadratic Equations by Graphing. Okay, so here's the deal. I'll show you. Here's the basic gist of this, a quadratic. Okay, I have a question. Forget the graphing part. If I gave you this, if I gave you x squared minus 4x plus 3 equals 0, and I told you I wanted you to tell me what the solution is here, what would you do? You'd factor it, right? You'd factor this thing right here, and you go, okay, well, what multiplies to 3 and adds to negative 4? Oh boy, multiplies to 3 and adds to negative 4. You'd go like this, right line on the equal sign. You go like this and this. You go x and x, and you go, what is it? Minus 1 minus 3. Do you agree? Do you agree with that? Okay. And then this right here, you would say, well, what is the solution then? You're looking at, what is the solution? X is 1, not and, 1 or 3, right? If it was x was either 1 or x was 3, that would make it true. So you'd say x equals 1 or 3. Or, you might go 1 and comma 3, whatever. Does that make sense? And if you want to get technical, you would say the solution set for x is x equals 1 or 3. Does that make sense? You remember that? That's what that's technically how you'd write it. Anyway, I'm going to go back to this. So we already know, I'm going to write this smaller, so x equals 1 or 3. Now we're going to graph it, okay? I'm actually going to graph this for you. And what is the way, there's a couple of ways to do this. What is the ways that we know how to do this? What is one thing that we know how to do? How do we graph this? If I said I want you to graph that thing, what do? We just did it. No. Right, you have to graph it, right? So you draw your stinking coordinate plane. We just did this last night, right? Yeah. We're grabbing this guy, right? So we did this last night. We're going to grab it. We're going to go like this. We're going to go right here, and we're going to go here. That's horribly drawn. Both of them were horribly drawn. Oh, you liked it? Yeah. Well, I didn't. And you shouldn't like it. It was bad. Okay. Let's do it then. There's our coordinate plane. First thing we have to do is find minus b over 2a, which is what is minus b over 2a? The axis of symmetry, right? So minus b over 2a is the axis. That equals, so minus b is minus, negative 4. Do you see that? Minus negative 4. That's why we put things in parentheses. Over 2 times 1. Right? So negative 4 is 4 over 2, which is 2. So the axis is here on 2. Right? Okay, we know how to do this. We did this last night, or we did this for yesterday. Okay, and then now we have to find the vertex, right? The vertex is somewhere on that axis. So what are we going to do? We plug in 2 for x across the whole thing. So we're going to go, instead of it being x squared, we're going to go 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 3 equals 0. Okay, so 2 squared is 4 minus 8 plus 3 equals 0. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1, right? What did I do wrong here? Oh, it's not equals 0. It equals y, right? Equals y. Equals y. Okay, so then when x is 2, y is negative 1. So that means it's right there. Do you agree? Do you agree? That's the axis? That's the vertex, I mean. Okay. What else? What's the other point that I need to know? Where does it touch the y-intercept? So I'm going to find out, where does it touch the y-intercept? At 3. Okay, it touches the y-intercept at 3. Which means that we also know that that's a point right there. Right? This is how we did it yesterday. This is how you graph it. So then you grab this baby. Do you agree that that's roughly what it is? Okay, so we just learned yesterday we learned how to graph. Now I'm going to tell you how we can find the solution to these things by graphing. Notice this. What was our solution again? What was the actual solution? We know? 1 or 3. Agreed? So notice this. It's where the parabola, where do you see? You tell me. What's the solution? It's where the parabola crosses the x. Look, what is this point right there? 1. What is this point right here? 3. Wherever the parabola crosses the x is the solutions. They're called roots. That's where the roots are to this function. Does that make sense? So when you graph these, you're going to go up there and you're going to do your best to draw your parabola. And the reason why graphing it is so lame is because it's inaccurate, right? I mean, like technically, where did I draw it? Did I actually draw it right there perfect? Or is that a little bit too far over? Is that more like 2.8? You see what I'm saying? You know, and is this actually right here? No, that's probably more like 1.9. Does that make sense? So graphing it is inaccurate, but you need to understand how it works so that you can at least wrap your brain around these things. Where this thing crosses, we know the real answer is 1 and 3 because we actually solved it using math, not just our eyes, right? We know the solution is 1 and 3. So where the parabola crosses the x, those are called the roots, and that's the solution, or the solutions. What happens when this happens? What happens when you grab your guy, graph your parabola, and this is what it ends up doing. What is the solution again to any parabola? The solution is where it crosses the x. Where does this one cross the x? Nowhere. It does not. Therefore, there's no solution, right? There's no solution here. It never crosses the x. There's no roots, right? There's no roots. Okay, that's fine. What happens if it crosses right here? What happens if it goes up like this and it touches it? Let's say, I drew it poorly, but let's say it touches it right here. Say it touches right there on that green. What would you say the solution is? Does it touch the x? You'd say the solution is x equals 5. Does that make sense? That's where the solution is. That's the roots, is 5. Make sense? If it just goes up and touches, wherever it touches the x, that's the solution. In this situation, how many solutions are there? There's 1, right? If a parabola ever does that, how many solutions? 2. What if it does this? 0, right? It's that simple. Okay, it's that simple. Now, you won't know this, you won't know this until you graph it, right? You won't know this until you graph it. But anyway, what about this though? What if I gave you this? X plus 3 squared equals 0 or whatever. How many solutions are there to this? There's only 1. So what does that tell you that this, when you look at this, you already know there's only 1 solution, right? What's it going to look like on the graph? When you look at the coordinate plane, what's it going to look like? The vertex is going to be on the x-axis. Either it's upside down or right side up. It's going to be on the x-axis, right? If I give you one that looks like this and say, x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0, what's it going to look like? First of all, you can tell me some things right now without even doing anything. You can tell me a couple things. What's the thing going to look like? You say no solution? It's a right side up parabola. What else can you tell? It crosses the y at 4, right? You know this. Does that make sense? I mean, so just by looking at it really quick, you can see some things, right? You can see some things and you go, oh, okay. Does that make sense? I mean, you should just be able to recognize what's going on with these parabolas, these quadratics, because you know basics of them. Okay. Let me see what we got here. Here's how I'm going to have you do your homework, though. This is what I'm going to have you do for your homework. You are going to actually start by graphing. Each time you do this, you're going to start, and I want you to graph the solution. Graph this thing. Do they have us do a table? I don't remember. Hold on. No, you don't have to do that, right? We just do what we did before, right? I mean, we just did it like we did yesterday, right? You're going to graph it, and then now all you're going to do is you're going to take it one step further, and you're going to tell me the solution. If our graph looks like this, if our guy looks like this, that's a horribly drawn line. Okay, if we end up with something that looks like this, it crosses down here like this. Come on. Right? And then we know it crosses the y here, which means that it's here, right? We've already done all this work, which you guys all know how to do. You guys all did pretty good on your homework, right? And you're going to go like this. The problem is that do you really know where that thing is going to cross? The X, you don't. So what do you have to do? You do your best. You know what I'm saying? You do your best. I want to know what your best guess is on your graph. Does that make sense? I want you to do your best job on the guess. And it should be relatively close. It should be within 1, right? I mean, you might go, oh man, my best guess is that it's 2.5 and -3 or something. Does that make sense? And that's fine. Once you're done with that, then what do you think I want you to do? Actually do it, right? Actually solve it and figure out, oh, I was a little off, or I was a little closer, I was off. You know what I'm saying? Then I want you to actually do it. So that's the 2 parts. They only want you to do it by graphing. The reason why I don't like that is because you'll never do that in real life. You'll never actually stop there. The only thing that by doing it by graphing is going to do is give you an estimate. It's going to give you an estimate, an idea as to what general vicinity. I'm telling you right now, that's not going to be your life in mathematics. You're going to want to know the answer. Your teachers are always going to want to know the answer. So I want you to graph it, and then I want you to actually solve it and see. So I'm going to want 2 answers in your answer column. For every one that I give you, I want 2 answers. I want your estimate, or the one where you do it from graphing, and I should see the graph, and then I want the real actual answer, the one that you actually solved. They might be the same thing. You know what I'm saying? They might be, but they may not be. And even if they are, you won't know that they're the same until you've actually solved it. Does that make sense? So I'm looking for the work for both the graphing section, and I'm looking for the solving section for each one that I give you. Does that make sense? Okay, I think you guys are ready to go. I don't know why I have 2 days on this. Maybe we'll take a big fat quiz tomorrow. I don't know. Let me give you your let me give you your homework. 2 days. What am I thinking? 1 through 27 even. Is that what I want? We'll do this. We'll do yeah, right. Yeah, you're not going to have any homework because you've got 20 minutes now to work on it. Let's do this. I'm going to have you do 1 through 8 all. Okay, 1 through 8 all. Yeah. Okay? Make sense? 1 through 8 all. Page 540, 1 through 8 all. We'll call this classwork.